So how did you meet David Grant?
Well,
and how did you get... So being a backing vocalist while you're writing your own music, that's kind of like, again, great learning experience, isn't it?
Because you've got somebody up front that you can look at.
Yeah.
Somebody up front, you can see how the audience bounce with him and how he bounces with them.
Yes.
It was one of the best things I did, right, in terms of actually getting together with Lynx. Lynx is management company, also had a publishing arm, and I'd gone to them, or should I say they came to me concerning publishing, and I'd written Mummy Used to Say, got together with Bob Carter, and Bob was also managed by them, so it was like a little in-house thing.
Nice.
So David and Sketch were huge. I mean, the early people don't talk about Lynx.
No, they don't.
It's really strange.
Their songs are
and
amazing.
Lynx, to be quite honest, was the breakthrough for all black artists in this country.
In the UK,
yeah,
sure, absolutely.
Even though Eddie Grant and everybody else, but Lynx were really, because Lynx were born in England.
That's right.
Right? So we were now making music from an English perspective, right, on black music. And that was what, again, made me want to be a part. So when Lynx were going out on tour, they rang me. David rang and said, we'd love you to do the tour. Are you up for it? And I just put Mummy Used to Say out the July. And nothing happened with it in the UK. It died a death. They wouldn't play it. Nobody played it here because they said it was too rock and roll. It's this. I even remember on Radio 1. Yes, Radio 1. They used to have this feature where it was like, how did it go? It was the records of the week that came out. They would review them.
That's right.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And some guy turned around and went on there and said, I can't remember who it was, but I do remember, but I won't say. But that person went on there and said, he's not really down with a black guy playing rock music, right? Because that's what this is. Listen to the guitar, because the guitar was on there, ow, 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 and what we call it, and because it was urgent, and the original was very ambient, which is what I wanted. I wanted a rock and roll sound. And that's what we got when we did the first one. Or should I say the original version. And I got slated, man. That chap, Mummy Used to Say in England, got slated. So I had nothing. I had a 1-year-old, right, just born that year, Dieter, my oldest son. And no form of money, no form of anything, right? So what was I going to do? I had this kid and I'm not working. Music is my life. So when David and that rang, it was like a godsend. It really was. And we went out on the road as Lynx, and we did 7 nights at the Dominion, matinee and late show.
7 nights.
Nobody's ever done it since. Lynx are the only band to do that. At the time, we were bigger than Spandau Ballet. We were the biggest band in the UK at that time. So being involved in something like that, something that massive, right, was incredible. What I learned in terms of being able to watch somebody else up front, how the audiences worked with it, how he and I worked the audience, it was all part of my learning in terms of how to do this on stage. And what bigger arena than the ones that we were playing in. There weren't many that were bigger. We were just, at that time, huge. Came off of that tour, the January, and was told that Mummy Used to Say was now breaking in America. Which
Before the UK?
Yeah, right? And I was like, I can't believe this. But, it's like, this is January, and they're making me know it's going to be so big that I've got to make an album, right? And I've got 3 weeks to make the album in, because that's how soon. So while we were on tour with Lynx, Bob Carter and myself, we did all the arrangements and stuff, Bob and me. But Bob, we used the band that we had, the Lynx band. And after we would do the shows, right, we would then rehearse the songs. So when we went in to record, when we got back from the Links tour, we recorded in Good Earth in another studio called Scorpio's Studios, and it took us 3 weeks to make that album, right? But the songs were there because I'd already written the songs and stuff. So we came off the tour. I did the album. I then went to America, and that was just incredible at that time because I had no. If you can imagine, you're getting a phone call. You've sold 150,000 copies of your record in Chicago. You get another phone call. You sold 250,000 copies in New York. You sold 100. Now these figures just can't equate. If you get what I'm trying to say, it's great. 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. But the magnitude of a record in terms of how, because again, the record wasn't broken by the record company in America. It was broken by a DJ in America. My record company, Polygram, at the time in America would put no money into it because it wasn't a domestic act. Now these are all things that I had to learn. I thought you put the record out, right, and everybody's working it around the world. Not so. You're a domestic artist, so you've been signed in Britain. Normally what happens is your record has to break in Britain before any other country around the world decides to take it on board. But what was happening here was the A&R man that I was working with at the time turned around and said he knew of a DJ, right, in America, right, who he's the Don. If we can get him to play it, right, it's all over. So there was a radio station called WBLS, and there was a DJ on there called Frankie Crocker. Look up Frankie Crocker, people, when you get the chance. And Frankie Crocker, if he played your record, that was it. The next day, you're gone. I always remember Keith Sweat saying to me that...
I want her. Yeah, that one. Okay.
He said, Keith Sweat turned and said to me, he was at work. At the time, he used to work in, let's say, the city. So he's working in finance. And he said he heard the record on the radio and he went inside and he told the man, I'm leaving. That was it. He knew Frankie Crocker played that record. That was it. Frankie played Mama Used to Say. And the next day, there wasn't a station in America that wasn't playing Mama Used to Say.
Wow.
Every black station in America.
Did it cross over to the white radio as well?
Went top 20 in pop radio.
Pop radio.
Yeah, pop radio in America.
Because in America, they're very funny about their different radio stations.
Yeah, and it's all
the genre
and all that kind of stuff. So and at that particular time, it was black radio or it was pop. It wasn't this.
That's right.
And it was the beginning of them wanting to oust vinyl. It was the beginning of CDs becoming very popular. So Frankie broke the record, he played the record, and the record just took off and became huge. So by the time I went to America, which would have been the April...
By 1982?
Yeah.
Right.
By the time I'd gone there, mate, it was just monster.
So had you been to America before?
Yeah, I'd gone there.
As a tourist or
No, I'm going to go back as an artist.
Right,
I went to America in 1980,
okay.
The year before. I'd done a song called Get Up and Dance, Hot Up and Heated, and it'd gone to #1 in France, right? And a record company in America called Firesign, right, picked up on Get Up and Dance, Hot Up and Heated, put the record out in America, and it became #1 on their hot newcomers chart. So Firesign asked us to come over, put some gigs together for me. So I went down to Baltimore and I played some gigs in Baltimore at that time.
That must have been exciting.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'd never played America before, so getting a chance to go there.
This is like you said, before Mama used to say.
This is before Mama used to say. This is what made Mama Used to Say happen.
Right.
So the record's #1 in France. It's come out in America. It's got #1 on their hot one, whatever. There's a tune called Junior Wants to Play that comes out at the same time that now is becoming huge, right? Off of the basis of what Mama used to say. So it was like Junior had been plugged in. So everywhere when I got there, being the first black artist again to do Soul
And
Train.
congratulations on that, because
Thank you.
first of all, like you said, you were the first black British artist for one to be on Soul Train, which was a massive show in America as
Very
well.
much so.
And we had all these amazing artists at that time, like Shalimar, and we're talking about Jam and Lewis,
Yes,
and
indeed.
way before they started working with Janet Jackson. But to be the first black artist to be on Soul Train is a big thing. And then you won the, if I remember rightly, the Billboard, which is a big music. Like you got Music Week here, you got this big publication called Billboard, and you won the newcomer of that. And you were presented by
James Brown.
There you go. So when you had that record as a 10-year-old and it came back to you, that must have been crazy.
Of course it was. Of course it was.
Your idol like that.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I stood up there in this white jacket and this thing, and my mouth is like in the pictures. I just couldn't believe that as a 10-year-old, I had Money Won't Change You, and it really kind of like, that was it. James Brown was it. And 14 years later, right, I'm being presented with an award from James Brown. My head was in a spin. My head was just like this. I just couldn't believe that, like, that record had done that, you know, and had achieved that kind of success. It was just incredible. I come back to England, and I get back to England, and they're still playing this. You know, he's a black guy, so we don't need to do this and we don't need to do that. So I'm now playing, I'm a human being, so you're dead right. I don't need to do that and I don't need to do this. I started to understand from going to America. In America, in those days, they had a circuit they called the Chitlin Circuit. Chitlin Circuit would be the black clubs and the black outlets. So when I went, right, I never saw anybody white. And the only British artist, right? But there wasn't any white people at my gigs, right? And that threw me, which was normality for them, right? And when they came to England, it wasn't normal for them to see white artists. So it was like, oh my God, right? We're in. Whereas for me, I was already, from the mindset of being in England, I was already in. But it was just the mere fact of various people and how their minds worked towards colour and not really understanding history. So going to America and doing Soul Train, getting the award from James Brown, being able to, Stevie Wonder had done That Girl at the time. I go to his radio station and he invites me in. And he's inviting me in and we're talking about my record. Man, I thought it was a band. The way everything that he said was exactly what I was after. I wanted a band feel. I wanted it to sound like something completely different. We went on about the various different technical machines that we used to get the kind of sounds that we got.
And another hero of yours, obviously.
Huge hero. So again, it's like, I remember meeting Stevie Wonder and my hand was sweating so much that there was water coming off it. I was going like this all the time. I just couldn't believe that I was sitting down with Stevie Wonder talking music. I mean, this is a genius, and I'm here talking music with Stevie Wonder. That threw me. And then what really threw me was he turned around and he said, I'm putting out an album, man, and listen to this song. This is gonna be a single. And he put on That Girl. And I listened to That Girl, and you know where you shake your head and you just think, oh, damn, that's it. It's all over. He went to #1 and I stayed at #2 for 2 weeks. We used to be on the phone.
Good company.
Great company.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so on Billboard I'm #2, on Cashboard I'm #1 and he's #2. So we used to laugh about
You
that.
also said that when you went to America, you had all these great artists like Stevie and Patti LaBelle and all these amazing artists giving you advice. But also, back in those days in the 80s, movies were like really big, and you know, Eddie Murphy was a stand-up comedian, and you happened to get onto the soundtrack of Beverly Hills Cop. So how did that come about, and did you actually meet Eddie? And
we never met at the actual time.
Okay.
What it was I'm out and I'm doing a promotional tour again, and I'm in Texas. I'm in this huge room, and they're giving me a great sound system, right, in there, huge boxes and stuff. So I go into the room and I'm thinking, this is heaven. And I go back downstairs and I'm talking to the guy and he says, hey, we got Eddie Murphy's staying here. So I said, where? He said, directly below your room. So I thought, yeah. I put on that second album, right, and I turned that thing up every day for 3 days. It would be up. I'd go out, and I'd go and do the promotion thing, right? And I'd come back, and bosh, that would be 1, 2 o'clock. Nobody made any noise about it. Nobody said anything. So I thought to myself, you know what, this is madness. So I took the album, pushed it under his door, and left. Went to New York, and spent 2 days in New York, and then came back to England. When I got back to England, I get a phone call from the A&R man, right? Junior, there's some guy in America called Eddie Murphy, and he's making a movie, and he wants a track from you, right? So I'm there, and I'm sitting down there, because I know he doesn't know who Eddie Murphy is, right? And I'm there, and I'm like, yeah, no problem, how soon? So he's like, oh, they're talking about ASAP. So I wrote, Do You Really Want My Love? I got a guitarist who used to be with the Gap Band, Glenn Nightingale.
I know Glenn and his sister.
And his sister as well, yeah.
You know. What a great guitarist.
Right?
Yeah.
Incredible guitarist. So I got Glenn to come down. Glenn played some guitar and Do You Really Want My Love? I then gave it to the record company. They sent, because in them days it was a cassette. So they sent the cassette out. They loved the cassette, put the cassette in the movie, right? And then I came back and I recorded it with Stevie Wonder on drums. So if you've got a copy of Do You Really Want My Love, a recorded copy, it will be with Stevie Wonder on drums. That was my big thing at that particular time, to have a Stevie. It was the only time, it was the first time he'd ever done a drum session for anybody. So there was lots of things concerning me that I was just doing but not fully grasping. You're the first to do these things. You know?
Absolutely.
You know, I went out to America one year and went out and did a show with a rock band, a very, very successful rock band from the UK. We met up at a party and stuff, and they were going to New Orleans, and they said to me, I was going to be down in New Orleans, and they asked me if I'd come and play, come and sing some songs with them. So I thought this would be a laugh, because again, I love to do things like that. So I'm not going to tell you the name of the band.
Maybe afterwards.
Yeah, I'll tell you that afterwards. But they were huge, and just to give you just a little insight, the drummer lost his arm at one stage.
Oh, I know who you mean.
You know what I'm talking
about.
about.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
But we did a gig in New Orleans, and it was absolutely fantastic, man. About 20,000 people, and we just had a ball. And
I know who the band is, but what a interesting combination. So talking of collaborations, after, I mean, you've got such a long career, but I want to talk about how did you get to meet Kim Wilde? Because you did this amazing song called Another Step, which I've got here, which I want you to sign. But
definitely,
I remember seeing that on Top of the World, as well as seeing you, as Mama used to say, because you know, when I'm an 80s kid,
right.
So Adam and the Ants, and it was all the synth music, and then I see you before. I love Shalimar and all the other British bands, but I saw you on Top of the Pops. I was like, wow, and that kind of like got me into that British funk and the soul.
Oh, okay.
But you know, I also followed like Kim Wilde, but that was a great song.
Thank you.
So how did you get to meet Kim Wilde?